"You're going to die poor and alone," she sneered. My daughter-in-law, Sophia, had no idea I was worth $1.8 million. I had the money to buy a huge villa. I just needed to see who would betray me for it. My son Derek and his wife Sophia showed up on my doorstep, eyes wide, seeing the place for the first time. "Mom, this is incredible," Derek said. "My wife will love raising our kids here." I smiled, pulled out my phone, and made one call. It was the only call I needed to make. "My name is Olivia. I'm 66 years old, and I thought I had seen every kind of cruelty life could offer. I was wrong." The invitation for Derek's 38th birthday dinner arrived on cream-colored cardstock, the kind Sophia always insisted on. It read, "Join us for an intimate family celebration," in her perfect, overly manicured script. I should have been suspicious. Nothing Sophia ever organized was truly for the family. I spent the afternoon getting ready, choosing the navy blue dress Robert had always loved, the one with the small pearl buttons. I even splurged on a trip to the salon downtown to have my silver hair styled. It was a foolish expense on my tight budget, but some occasions just deserved the effort. The restaurant Sophia chose was one of those places that screamed money from every corner. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths so starched they could cut paper, and a single dinner that cost more than my entire month's food budget. As the hostess led me to their table, I clutched my small handbag tightly. Derek stood to greet me, and for an instant I saw flashes of the little boy who used to run into my arms after school. "Happy birthday, my love," I said, hugging him, but he felt stiff, colder than I remembered. Sophia had trained him well. "Thanks for coming, Mom," he said, his smile seeming sincere, but there was something distant in his eyes. Sophia sat next to him in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She offered me a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Olivia, you look so nice. Presentable." The word hung in the air like a slap. Not beautiful, not elegant, not even nice. Just presentable. As if I were a charity case she was graciously allowing to sit at her table. Dinner started smoothly enough. Derek talked about his big promotion at the law firm, and Sophia mentioned their upcoming vacation to Italy. I listened, nodded, and tried to contribute, but everything I said seemed to amuse Sophia in a way that tied a knot in my chest. When the waiter brought the wine list, she made a grand show of ordering the most expensive bottle. "We'll have the Chateau Margaux," she announced, then looked at me with feigned concern. "Oh, but maybe we should get something more affordable. I know things have been tight since you moved into that little apartment." My cheeks burned. Yes, I was living in a modest rental now, but the way she said it made it sound like I was living in squalor. If you don't believe in the power of a woman's strength, maybe you should hit that subscribe button. You might learn something. The conversation continued, but Sophia steered every topic back to money and how well they were living. When I mentioned volunteering at the community center, she actually laughed. "Oh, Olivia, that's so sweet. Playing bingo with the other lonely old ladies. How fulfilling that must be for you." Derek said nothing. He just cut his steak and avoided my eyes. The breaking point came when Sophia got up to use the restroom. I reached for Derek's hand, hoping to connect with my son, but he pulled it away. "Mom, about your living situation," he began, his voice awkward. "Well, Sophia and I have been talking. We're worried about you living alone in that neighborhood. Maybe it's time to consider other options." Before he could answer, Sophia returned with a satisfied smile. "Honey, you're not getting any younger. You live alone. You're barely scraping by. It's just not sustainable. There are some very nice assisted living facilities that are quite affordable." Assisted living, they wanted to put me away. "I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Oh, sweetie, of course you think that." Sophia's laugh was sharp and cutting. "But we have to be realistic. You live in a tiny rental. You probably eat canned soup for dinner. It's frankly quite sad." She took a slow sip of wine before delivering the final blow. "Let's be honest. You're going to die poor and alone anyway. Wouldn't it be better to have a little dignity in your final years?" Her words hit me like fists. I looked at Derek, waiting for him to defend me. He said nothing. He just stared at his plate, his mouth remaining closed. "We can't be responsible for you too," Sophia said, as if I were a burden they had generously carried, not the woman who raised Derek alone after his father left, the one who worked double shifts to put him through college. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling. "Excuse me," I whispered. I walked out of that elegant restaurant on unsteady feet and didn't stop until I reached my car. That night, alone in my small apartment, I sat in Robert's old armchair and cried until I had no tears left. But in the midst of the pain and humiliation, something else began to sprout. Resolve. They thought they knew me. They thought I was a sad, poor old woman, dependent on their obligatory charity. They were so wrong. The morning after the dinner, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The tears were gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. Resolve. I made my coffee and sat at my kitchen table with a pile of papers I hadn't touched in months. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, documents that told a very different story from the one Sophia thought she knew. Most people would be surprised to learn that the old woman living in a small rental was worth over $1.8 million. Robert was a genius with money, you see, not just from his engineering job, but from smart investments that grew quietly over the 30 years we were married. After Derek married Sophia, I decided to test them. I moved to a smaller place. I drove an old Beta. I dressed modestly. I wanted to see what kind of people they were when they thought I had nothing to offer. Last night they answered that question with brutal clarity. I spread the papers on my table like a general planning a strategy. My cell phone rang. It was Derek. He'd been calling all morning. "Mum, Sophia feels terrible about what she said. She was just worried about your future." The words sounded hollow now. After I hung up, I sat in the silence and thought about the woman I used to be. And then I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, George. "Clara, so good to hear from you," he said. "How are you?" "It's complicated," I said. "I need to make some changes to my will." "What kind of changes?" "I want to remove my son as a beneficiary." George's pause was brief. "That's a strong decision. May I ask why?" I thought of Derek's silence the night before, his inability to defend me. Let's just say I discovered some things about his character that concerned me. I want everything to go to the Silver Circle Foundation, every penny. I spent the afternoon at George's office signing documents that would ensure my money went to people who would truly value it. On the way home, I stopped at the salon where I'd had my hair done the day before. "I want to make a change," I told the stylist. 2 hours later, I walked out with my silver hair cut into a stylish bob that took years off my face. That night, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine, not the cheap bottle I'd been buying, but one from the collection Robert and I had started together. I raised my glass to his memory. "You were right, my dear," I said to his photograph on the mantel. "I do deserve better." Derek's text buzzed on my phone. "Mom, Sophia really wants to make things right. Can you come for dinner on Sunday? She's cooking your favorite pot roast." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I'll be there, but I wouldn't be going as the grateful, diminished woman they expected. I would be going as me, the real Olivia, the one with resources, options, and absolutely nothing to lose." The house hunt began that Monday. The colonial-style mansion sat on 2 acres of land with century-old oak trees. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, and a magazine-worthy kitchen. The asking price was $780,000, a fortune to most, but perfectly manageable for me. "I'll take it," I said to the real estate agent Sarah. "The full price. Cash sale. How quickly can we close?" By Friday, I had the keys to my new home. I waited until I was completely settled before I called Derek. "Mum, where have you been? We expected you for dinner." "I've been busy. Moving. Moving? To where?" "I bought a house, Derek, a proper house." The silence on the other end was so long I thought the call had dropped. "You bought a house? How? I mean, what kind of house?" "A beautiful colonial on Willow Creek Lane. Your father was a very wise man with money." Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather. I watched from the window as Derek and Sophia sat in their car for several minutes. When they emerged, Sophia was dressed to impress in a designer suit she wore to make a good impression on wealthy neighbours. She had a bright, calculating smile. "Clara, what a surprise. This is quite substantial." The tour was a 30-minute appraisal. She admired each room, taking note of the square footage and the quality of the finishes. When we reached the master suite, she finally dropped the facade. "This is enormous," she said. "Really? Far too big for one person." She turned to me with that sharp smile. At your age, is it really safe to be rattling around in a house this size? The property taxes, the heating costs, the upkeep, it all sounded like a tremendous burden. We've been thinking about our future, she said. We want to start a family, and with Derek's new position, our current place is getting a bit small. This house would be perfect for a growing family. All these spare bedrooms, the big yard for kids to play in. You would have company. We could take care of you. The audacity of it took my breath away. They were actually suggesting that I had bought this house for them. I set down my coffee cup very carefully and looked at them one by one. It's an interesting proposal, I said. I just need to make a phone call. Will you excuse me for a moment? As I walked to my study, I heard Sophia's elated whisper to Derek. I told you she'd come around. This is going to be perfect. I closed the door behind me and dialed George's number. George, I need to make immediate changes to my will today. I want it stated without a shadow of a doubt that under no circumstances can my son or his wife ever inherit this property. They will never live here. They will never own it. They will never benefit from it in any way. As I was speaking, I could hear their voices getting closer. They were here now, in my house, planning how to redecorate it. They're just showing me exactly who they are, I said quietly, and I am finally paying attention. I walked back into the living room where Sophia was taking pictures. Just getting some measurements, she said, to see where the furniture would go. For the next hour, I played the part they expected of me, the grateful older woman, overwhelmed by her good fortune and their generous offer to share in it. They bought all of it. They had no idea that with every assumption, with every arrogant expectation, they were forfeiting any claim to my affection, my money, or my beautiful house. This is a story about taking your power back. Don't let your own story end in quiet desperation. Subscribe to reclaim your power and hear more stories like this. The call came at 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 days after I signed the new will. Mom, we need to talk right now. It was Derek. I know what you did. He had found out. His lawyer had confirmed they were no longer beneficiaries. They hung up and were at my house in 20 minutes. How could you do this to us? Sophia's voice was shrill. After everything we did for you, after all our plans. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one facing the garden. I did no such thing. I listened while you made assumptions. Assumptions? Sophia shrieked. You led us to believe we were going to live here. I was being polite. You were guests in my home. I'm your son. Derek's voice broke. Yes, you are, and I am your mother, but that doesn't make my house your house, or my money your money. You're almost 70 years old, living alone in a house that's way too big for you. We offered to help, to take care of you, and this is how you repay us, Sophia yelled. You're a selfish, bitter old woman. She even tried to claim my husband had left me. Robert didn't leave me, Sophia. He died, and if Derek can barely stand me, why would you want to live in my house? I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder I had prepared. Since you're so interested in my will, you might as well know the whole truth. I handed it to Derek and watched their faces change as they absorbed the contents. Confusion, disbelief, horror, and finally, rage. You left everything to a foundation, Derek whispered. To the Silver Circle Foundation. They help seniors who have been abandoned by their families. We'll contest this, Sophia snarled. We'll fight it in court. Read the last page, Sophia, I said calmly, a smile on my face. The part about what happens if you contest the will. Her eyes flew to the document, and the colour drained from her face as she read the clause George had insisted on including. You forfeit any right to even visit this property after it becomes a care facility for abandoned seniors. By law, you will never be able to set foot here again. Sophia threw the papers on the floor. You're going to regret this when you're dying alone in this house, she screamed. I won't die alone, Sophia. I will be surrounded by people who have learned, as I have, that blood doesn't make a family. Love does, respect does, and you haven't shown me either of those in years. They left then. As I watched them drive away, I felt nothing but a deep and serene satisfaction. They had made their choice, and now I had made mine. 6 months passed before I heard from them again. 6 months of the most serene and fulfilling life I had lived since Robert died. My house had become what it was always meant to be, a home. The call came on a spring Tuesday. Hello, Mom. I was wondering if we could talk in person. It was Derek. His voice sounded smaller, timid. Brittany and I are having some trouble. I knew it. The cracks were showing once they realized my money wouldn't be there to solve their problems. Brittany left me, he said at last. She said you'd be happy. I didn't plan the end of your marriage, Edward. I planned to protect myself from people who only saw me as a source of money. How else was I supposed to see you? When was the last time you called me just to find out how I was? When was the last time you visited without asking for something? He was quiet for a long time. Then, in a small voice, he said, I don't remember. He told me everything. About Sophia leaving him, about her terminating the pregnancy because he couldn't give her the lifestyle she deserved, about her blaming me. Do you believe that? I asked. He was silent for a very long time. I wanted to believe it. It was easier than accepting that I had married someone who only loved me for what I could give her, just like you only wanted me for what I could give you. And then he started to cry, the broken sobs of a man who finally understood what he had lost. I didn't change my will to punish you, I said. I changed it to protect myself. I couldn't keep giving pieces of myself to people who saw those pieces as an entitlement instead of a gift. I see that now. Do you really? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear because you're hoping I'll change my mind about the money? He was quiet for a very long time. I guess I would have to learn to live with that, he said at last. And maybe I would ask if I could still come visit sometimes, not to convince you of anything, but just to spend time with you. The will is not going to change, Derek, I said, but you can come and visit if you want to, if you can accept that this relationship has to be different from what it was before. Different how? He asked. As equals, with no more expectation that I exist for your convenience. I'd like to try, he said. He looked at me then with a genuine smile. Can I help you in the garden? I remember you used to let me plant things when I was a kid. As we walked out into the yard together, I felt lighter than I had in decades. The money would still go to charity. The house would still become a haven for people like me. But maybe, just maybe, it would also become a place where a mother and son could learn to love each other again. Not out of obligation or expectation, but by choice. I had found the courage to demand a love that was earned or nothing at all. In the end, I got both. This is my story. How many mothers are suffering in silence inside their own homes? I am truly curious. If it were you in my place, what would you do? Would you choose to stay quiet to keep the peace, or would you dare to confront it all to get your voice back? I want to know what you think, because every story is a candle that can light someone else's path. Courage leads us to better days. If you've ever felt like your voice was stolen, this is your chance to get it back. Subscribe now or comment below and tell me why you won't.